Hey, welcome back. This is Coach Parker with CoachParker.org. How are you guys doing today? In this video, we're going to talk about how to play defensive tackle in my 6'2 multi-8 youth football defense. So let's jump right in. Some key points with the defensive tackles. In our defense, the defensive tackle is really our muscle. We're playing a lot of gap penetration, blitzing kind of stuff, but really our two big defensive tackles are really our defensive muscle, and we're looking for them to really manhandle the offensive line and give us that muscle there. We're asking them to play the assigned gap. It could be A, B, or C, and we're asking them to do that with extreme prejudice and using their big muscles there. On the 6'2 multi defenses, we're really asking them to get past their blockers quickly and penetrate. Whenever there's a five-man front, kind of like in the 5'2 or the 5'3 or in stacks, and sorry, not so much the stacks, but in the 5'2 and the 5'3, we're asking them to play a two-gap Peekaboo Hunt kind of thing there, and they're more reading than trying to penetrate like in the 6'2 variant. So you might want to talk to them about the differences between if we're in a 6'2 variant or if we're in a 5'3 variant, what's going to happen there. Of course, in the stacks, they're getting tapped and they go. And like I said, we want the defensive tackles, really in any one of these defenses, to manhandle their offensive tackle and offensive man in front of them. The D tackles really are the anchors of the B and C gaps, especially that C gap where they're running a lot of off tackle and lead blocks and stuff through there. We want our guys to be big, beefy, and mean to be able to stack up a big pile there if people are trying to run into that gap. And really, we want them punishing offensive linemen. I mean, we really can't have two defensive tackles that are going to back up and not really fight for the pride of the defense in that position. I tell you, if you've got two really good DNs and two defensive tackles that are quick, that 6'2 wide tackle defense is a monster, an absolute monster. So just a little tidbit on that there. Let's go ahead and get into, so in the 6'2 wide tackle here, we've got our, let me go ahead and get a highlighter set up here so I can draw. In the 6'2 wide tackle, you know, they've got the C gap right here, and you can see them sitting here. I like them inside shoulder of the tight end. If your guys are having trouble with inside shoulder, just put them head up on the tight end, stunt over into the offense right at the butt of the tackle. Now, a lot of times these guys, and you got to watch, is they'll penetrate really tight. We want them, to be honest with you, you know, we want them almost boxing in a 6'2 wide tackle, the C gap, like a defensive end, traditional old defensive end would do. I like them actually to kind of get up here and box angle right there between the C and the B gap. So if that makes sense to you guys, have them box that C gap for you really tight right behind the offensive tackle. But they've got to penetrate up and then box it. And then they can play BC gap right there. And I've started teaching my guys the last 2 seasons really to kind of box that C gap off and play contain within that BC gap when we're playing the 6'2 wide tackle. You really need to watch them pinching down too tight because it creates, because you know you've got your DNs flying up here. If they pinch down too tight, that creates this huge running lane. So they need to be right here so they can help out with that. If they're getting blown out with a double team or whatever, you know, they need to fall in their gap on their third step, bring some guys down with them. And that's what we're looking for. We also don't want them penetrating above here because they could get run underneath. So really, if you start thinking about it and you can see this gap control thing, really we want them kind of getting here and then boxing right there. We don't want them down here. We want them up and then box, kind of like you'd have your old, defensive ends box contain routes. We're boxing the C for a kind of C contain there. So maybe that'll help you to think about that. And we need them to penetrate the line of scrimmage. And so in the 6-2 variants, we don't want them hooking up with their tackle. We want them to rip by that tight end and that tackle and get in the backfield and set up on their little D-end kind of box technique there in the CB gap. So that's what we're looking for there. If in the tight tackle, now they're in B gaps and you can see their tackle areas here. It's almost the same thing. We want them kind of boxing in and helping out with the B gap. Although we've got A gappers in there, we want them to be able to have 2 or 3 gaps there, kind of like that. And you can see the gap control thing down there. We don't want them crashing in because that's where A gappers are. Then you leave this big hole here. So make sure your tackles are penetrating and then over. Penetrating and then over. You really, really got to talk to them about that. And that's the tight tackle. The tight tackle, they had B versus the C gap. Let's talk about when a defensive tackle has no tight end or kind of wingback on their side, like this guy right here does. Looks like they're in a tight tackle here. And, if this guy if we were in a wide tackle, he would be off here too on that. But let's say we are in a wide tackle here, and this guy, there is no tight end here. So what I like this guy to do is really go head up. I want him maybe to play a little bit shadier to the outside since I have A gappers here, and I want him to throw his guy inside gap and kind of come around there. And he's once again kind of going to play this CB kind of contain little thing here. But he needs to play a hunt technique. He needs to stand the guy up and then move over, because I really want this guy pushed back a little bit if he can get to do that. In the tight tackle, those guys in a gap 8, those guys come in big guns. It would move them in here. So if they're in gap 8 regular, they're here. But if I have this big guns call in, big guns basically moves the 2 big defensive tackles into the A gaps. So we get a lot of big meat. If we're thinking there's going to be a quarterback sneak or a quick fullback dive. And if you've got a big nose guard and a small gunner, you can just move the gunner out. You don't need to move both of the D tackles in. But it's really how you want to play, how you might want to play that there on that call. Another call that the tackles have to deal with is a TED call here. Let's say this cornerback here thinks this receiver is going to be a really good player, or birdie, say he's a birdie tight end, which is a good receiver. He may want to call and have his tom tackle here jam this guy, and tight end done is Ted. You jam him up for him and then make his play there. And the same thing, you could do it over here in case you got this wing back. You could call Ted over there, have him Ted. Now, he can only hold that guy up a second. He can't hold him up too long because you still got C-gap responsibility. But that TED call helps out to kind of jam your tight ends a little bit better. Now the D tackle and the stack defense, now they're going head up on their O tackles there, and the nose guard is on his center, and the linebacker is going to tap you, and if he taps you on that hip, you go that way. If he taps you here, you go that way, and vice versa. The key is on the stack is you don't go to the same place as your linebacker. So he's going to tap you to your side. You're going to go to the side of your tap, and you got to get through there. You got to really punish and get through there. And if you've got a small enough guy where you can grab and bring him with you to keep him off the linebacker, that's great too. So do what you can to get into the backfield. We're not reading, Dan and Tom. You're not sitting there reading. You're trying to get through the offense as fast as possible when we're in the 33 or the 45 stack. Now this is where you're reading. Now, if we go to a 5-through or a 5-2 defense, or any time you see the gunner come out and the nose go to head up, we really want you guys going to a bull rush, bull rider technique where you're going to do this 2-gap peekaboo hunt. And that's where you're going to come head up on your dude, and you're going to try to drive him back and then read right or left and then make your go. And that's really in the 5-3 or the 5-2 defense is because we've got more linebackers set up here. We want to keep these guys off of them, and we need you trying to play 2 gaps versus a 1-gap technique there. So that can really help us out if you're playing a 2-gap peekaboo hunt technique when we're in an odd front. And basically, whenever you see the gunner move into a linebacker or into a D-back and the nose goes head up, pretty much you guys, to Dan and Tom, the defensive tackles, need to go head up on their tackles there. One of the unique things that we've got is what we call orange slice or the slice, and we're in one of the 6-2 variants, and we call this. The backside tackle will not slice, but step back into a linebacker position. So you can see we have a slice left here. Everybody's going to slice like 2 gaps, and then you're not going to slice. You're going to step back and read in case anything does come back this way. So the same thing over here. If they're all slicing this way, this Dan tackle would come back and set up if it was sliced right. And so that's a little bit different than just a regular slant. Slant, everybody's going. Slice, the backside defensive tackle will actually come back up into a linebacker and help out on the backside. As far as stance, real quick, that kind of comes up. I like them to be in a 3-point stance. Some guys have to have 2-point because they can't get out of that 3-point very fast. So it's we leave it up to the players. But I do like an angled, a little bit of angled 3-point kind of stance. Set up for a rip on the tight end, but it's really up to you guys how you want to set your guys up there and what they're doing best. If it needs to be a 2-point, 3-point, or 4-point. When we go into big guns and they're in a goal line situation and they're all tight right here in the middle, I do like 4-point stances and submarines, so we can do that Butaki Zulu butt roll, and I'll get another video on how we do the Zulu Butaki butt roll submarine technique that we do on our goal line stuff and on for wedges. But that's how the defensive tackles play. Just a quick overview. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like it or you got some comments and want some more information, please leave that in the comments below. If you've got another coach that would like this information, please share it. If you like these videos, my drills, the offense, and you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to donate a few bucks, there's a link up above. If you don't want to donate but still want to help the channel, you can shop my store. I get a percentage of that. There's a link below. And I got 2 books out right now. I got the companion book to this, the 6-2 Multi-8 Youth Football Defense, companion book to this video series. And I've also got an offensive playbook that's out right now. It's still in draft form, but there's like 160 slides there of all my beast, power wing beast formation plays that I've run over the last 10 seasons. That have worked out well for me. So take a look at all that. Would really appreciate your support. Helps out the channel. Helps me keep bringing free video content to the youth football coaching community. Once again, if you like the video, hit like down below. Again, this is Coach Parker with CoachParker.org. And remember to play for fun, and winning is funner. See you guys next time. Ciao.